Austin. That was fantastic.
Why, thank you.
So now comes the sort of interview portion here. We could sit and chat. I don't really have it. Let me grab a chair actually real
We
quick.
need to get cozy together.
Yeah, let me, could you grab
Yeah,
it,
I
please?
got it.
I don't have another stool, so I'm going to be a little bit lower, but that's okay.
Well, let's just
You'll
swap
be
them out.
good.
I'll take that.
Are you sure?
Yeah. We're dialing this series, you know, and seeing how it fits.
There you go. That's for you. And another, huge round of applause for Matt Clark. Oh,
Yeah.
On the bass.
Okay.
So,
Cozy.
Tiffany Austin, we have known each other since 2012.
Holy cow.
Yeah. So I met Tiffany. I know. I still
Want
kind
to
of
keep seeing you.
low.
That's all right. We could just, we'll pop up. We'll do a
You
little.
can, yeah.
Hey.
Feel free to stand in the back.
Okay.
So we've known each other since 2012,
Yeah.
and we met through the Living Jazz did a Jazz Search West thing. Does anyone?
Yeah.
Has anyone gone to a Jazz Search West thing? Yes, few people, right? Do you want to tell the story?
Yes. So Sharmila snuck into my house, like hours. Let me stand up for this. Sharmila snuck into my house hours before the competition, and she somehow implanted it in my brain to sing Alone Together. Because when I walked in, I found out that we were singing the same song on the Jazz Search competition. And that has sparked a over decades long contentious relationship. No, I was actually really intimidated by you because her harmonic masters she's an incredible improviser, and she can, at the time, I really wasn't, I was just sticking my toe into harmony, and Sharmila had just been living and eating and breathing harmony for many years. So I was like, okay, well, I'm not changing my song, I'm not getting intimidated that much.
Yeah, but you did a cool thing. So we, it was, I don't remember what round it was, but I had gone in and I sang my tune, I felt okay about it, and then Tiffany came up, she was next. She's like, okay, so I'm going to be doing the very same tune. And she was quick on her feet, and she immediately was like, we're going to do this in 5. And I was like, oh, that's it, I'm out. And it was great, and it was really great. And you ended up winning that year, right?
Well, I'm one of the placers or whatever. Yeah, I think I was I don't want to lie and say this place. I should just say I won.
Just say you won.
So yeah, but this is so great. Can I just jump in with a thing?
Yeah.
And that is a lot of vocalists we don't get to occupy the same space at the same time, and so this is really quite a joy to sit together because usually you only hire one vocalist. I don't know why other instruments get to be hanging out together, but vocals don't.
Yeah, I know, it's just kind of a thing. But, so let's talk about quickly so you are from Southern California.
Watts, California,
Yeah.
Watts up, Watts
Also
up.
from Southern California. You also went to LACHSA. I also went to LACHSA. Years before you did. Just a few years. I feel like we've had this conversation briefly.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
LA County High School of the Arts.
Yeah, sorry. LA County High School for the Arts down at Cal State LA campus. And I went back in that year. But, so we have that sort of common thing. SoCal gals. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so you obviously you did music in high school at LACHSA.
Mm-hmm.
And tell me about your high school experience there.
My high school experience there, so I feel like it really opened me up to a creative mindset. So, well, let me say two things. My brother was a rapper, or is a rapper, and he spent maybe one semester at the school, and he was like, it's too weird there. Like, people were going to school with, you know, I mean, things that we think are normal now, purple hair, and back then it was like evil to have purple hair. So there were lots of artsy types, and so when I went, I was like, wow, this is like, there are other ways to express yourself in your dress and your manner and in your art. And so I got just really excited about being in that milieu. And yeah, it was great, but also, yeah, it's weird to, let's see, how can I say, yeah, I can say that anytime you go, so I grew, and Watts was primarily a Black neighborhood. And so going into a space where now you're not the majority of people, like, can be a little bit of shell shock. But one of the most beautiful things was the way that people treated me was not weird. You know, it was more just like getting accustomed to being in a different milieu rather than having to go through a lot of weird.
Yeah, and I kind of felt the same
Yeah.
way too when I was there, because I've always been, when I was a kid, I was a painfully shy child, which is kind of funny that I became a singer. You know, and, you know, standing in front of a bunch of people and singing and performing is fine, it feels normal, but talking to someone one-on-one, I was like, whew. But going to school there, like you said, you kind of was like, oh, all these people are kind of like me, and the way that we communicate, the way that we think about things, the way that things that we appreciate, it's like, oh, I like that too, or I do that too, and that's kind of cool. And for me, it totally opened me up, you know. And I mean, up until that point, I was, you know, studying classical music and doing all this stuff, but then like I met all these other people who also studied classical music, but also did some other stuff, or maybe people who didn't study classical music, but, you know, their kind of artistic, creative thing was just like so cool. And so it was like, oh, and it just kind of gave me this allowance to try stuff out and to be more confident, where before it was like, oh, I'm not, I mean, when I was a kid, like there's a picture of me singing like this. I used to sing like a vulture because I was so scared. But it allowed me to be like, oh, I'm kind of good at this. That's why I'm here. And all these other people are really good at what they do too. And then it becomes this environment where you then kind of start to just think the same way as the other people that you're going to school with, you know. And I think as a high schooler, that's a really big thing. Yeah.
Super important.
Yeah.
And I'm just noticing things that I also have further in common with you. Number one, super shy. Up until I moved to the Bay in 2009, I would run off stage after a show and drive home really fast and start crying.
Wow.
Yeah. So it took me until about 5 minutes ago to like relax, sharing music with folks. And are we losing you? Sorry. Sorry, I don't mean to shame people. I was just like, you know what it is? It's like you get instant feedback. You're like, hey, we're gonna do more music, but wait, you know, try to entice people. But anyway, the other thing I was gonna say that we have in common is a classical background. Give me a little classical riff.
Oh gosh, right now? Not right now.
Come on, this is how our rivalry takes shape.
Admittedly, I've not really done a lot of singing since before the holidays.
She's gonna kill me on the song we're doing later.
Well, it'll come out later. We'll wait for it. But okay, so then after high school, I'm changing the subject. After high school, you then you said you came up here, right?
I came to the Bay. So actually, after I can't believe that didn't work on you. You're like impervious to peer pressure. That's excellent. What happened? I moved to Tokyo for a few years.
Oh, right.
And 5.5 years, and then I came back, and I was a totally culture. Yeah, I was like I had reverse culture shock. I didn't know how.
And why did you move to Tokyo? What did you do?
I moved to. I was supposed to just take a gap year.
Okay.
And gap year turned into gap 5 years. And so, but I taught English initially. I wanted to be a paralegal because that's what I was doing before I left. And I was all queued up for law school. Everybody told me that's what I was supposed to be doing with my life. But when I got to Tokyo, they were like, your Japanese is like non-existent, like minus Japanese. So I was like, okay. So then, that's what you do, you teach English. And then someone heard me singing at work, and then it kind of dragged me onto gigs. And then that's when I really started enjoying Tokyo. Because
nice.
Teaching English, you gotta really love teaching English. And then I got into Cal. And then I moved.
So you did gigs in Tokyo?
Yeah, I was
nice.
taking. And again, like stylistically, it was just pop music.
Mm-hmm.
So I was singing like Mariah Carey songs over and over again. Like if you ever what's that? Open arms, open arms. Like I will sue you if you ask me to sing that. Yeah.
So you're in Tokyo, and then you came back here or you applied to UC Berkeley. You got in.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got into Cal, and my emphasis was entertainment law. I'm thinking about my undergrad, which was in literature, creative writing. So then, as you all heard, right, the horrors of law school, it wasn't that bad. It was just like, I've always loved music. And so I didn't realize until I had no room for it in my life. Are we losing more people? Oh my God, what's that? Okay, it's gonna start getting really nervous. So I'm gonna stop getting freaked out. Let you guys stretch your legs if you need to stretch your legs. I'm gonna have faith in you all. So entertainment law, graduated, didn't take the bar, just recorded a record called Nothing But Soul, which is actually my whole life's mission. It's like living with soul. And so my record label is called Con Alma with Soul. I think about daily, like how can I move through my world with soul, Con Alma. Because I can, and here's where I also proselytize you all, which is like, if we think about what we're supposed to do or what we're expected to do, we have to make sure that that's in resonance with what's happening inside, right? Like what wakes you up in the morning, what keeps you up at night. You're trying to sleep and it's like swirling around in there. That's the thing that you're supposed to be spending your time on. And I know there are realities of paying rent or whatever, or paying, giving time to loved ones and, all assorted things. But I think wherever you are in your life, or at any age, it's a good litmus test to say, like, am I in the waveform? I'm studying Reiki, so I'm going to get really woo on it. Am I in vibration with, like, the thing that makes me feel most connected, right? Coming back to that. And I felt very disconnected from myself and from my friends and from other people when I didn't do music. Music is the way that I just really tap in omnidirectionally.
I think also improvisational music is very much like that, where you're trying to really tap into what you're feeling, what you're thinking, what you're hearing on the inside, and trying to convey that out to the audience or out to the people who are there, listening and experiencing this thing with you.
I agree, but not but, yes and.
Yeah.
I will say, all music should feel like that.
Yeah.
And maybe there's some people in a different camp, but even if you're singing what is written, there should be like a whole embodiment and just being really present, right? And then if you extrapolate that out, every moment of your life should feel like that. Warmth, connection, vibrancy. What's happening in this moment? Ooh, responsiveness. Right? So then everything becomes a meditation. And then art becomes life, and life becomes art.
Have you always felt that way, or did you kind of come to that, or when was there a period where you're like, oh, where all of a sudden that kind of came to you?
Just a lot of it's just heartache and healing. I'm preaching to the choir here. All right, let me ask all of you. Raise your hand if you've had heartache. Okay. Raise your hand if you've had to heal from something, if it's physical, emotional, like, right? And so we've all had to like find the mechanism by which to do that. And sometimes it's like, okay, physical therapy or this or mental therapy or whatever. But I just, for me, I've always been interested in the paradigmatic way to shift things, right? Like, okay, yeah, I can go get therapy, but okay, how can I'm not instead of, but how am I getting to the place where I shift my whole way of being in an instant? So when I teach like that. I guess I teach vocal techniques, but I'm like, how do you think about the way that you sing? Are you thinking that you're a good little soldier? Or are you feeling like, oh, I'm talking to my friends, what's up? Right? If you come into the concert, are you gonna be a good little audience member, or are you coming to hang with people and party? So that's come maybe in the last 5 years, where it's just like, how do we zoom out, get real meta, and then frame it a certain way so that it feels a certain way. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned that you were also a shy kid, right? So how did you work through the shyness or the, on the stage? Or are you still working through it like I am?
No, you know what it is? I think I failed so dazzlingly and so phenomenally, just like, oh my God, that was terrible. To where it's like, so I had to weigh, do you love music enough to keep failing like this? And the answer was yes. There was nothing I could do nothing could dissuade me away from music. And so I was like, I better just start enjoying this, because you're always gonna fail when you love something, and especially if you want to deepen in it. There's things that you have to try to get down to the heart meat of the craft that you love. And then the other part of it is really developing a healthier sense of humor for myself.
Yeah.
I think mistakes are hilarious, and I mean on and off stage. If I fall, okay, I'm gonna tell you this terrible story. Is that all right?
Sure.
All right. This is really bad. So I was like wearing this really cute mini skirt and stuff, and I put on my sexy underwears, and I was on this date, and I was like, and I was prancing around, and little did I know there was this cement obstruction there, and I fell over it, and the whole the skirt just went And this was on Bay Street. And you know how all the cars go through the thing? So there was like a whole parade of cars. I'd be like, and for like half a second I was like mortified. And then I was like, if this was in a movie, this would be the most hilarious scene ever. And so for me, I'm like, that's life. That's life. Everything to some degree, you know, if you get enough distance, is hilarious.
Yeah. That's true. So did you come from a musical family?
Kind of, in a way. Both my parents listened to all the greats. I think we're losing people. We better play some music.
That's okay.
Okay. All right. Bye, y'all. Thank you. Yeah, both parents played like all the greats from Al Green, Aretha, grew up with a lot of soul, of course, James Brown, all the, the funk stuff. My grandma played a lot of swing, so that's how I got introduced to Ella, Duke, and, and Nina. And so my brother is a rapper, and just from a young age, he would always play this rare vinyl. So I hear all these cool grooves, and the one of the things that I love the most is he was really versatile. He would pull out like Portishead. Any Portishead fans?
Yes.
What? Okay, two. Oh, that's like a what would you call that kind of music?
I don't know.
It's like an like a moody electronics thing, and then rock, and then so I would hear stuff, that you're not supposed to listen to. If you listen to R&B, you're not supposed to listen to rock, right? at least back in my day. So so I heard a lot of good stuff.
Okay, so I have my 3 questions that I'm going to ask all the guests that come through. The first one is, how do you prepare for a gig? What do you do? Like maybe that day, what do you do? Mentally, physically, emotionally, musically?
So typically I just clear that day. Today was not that case. I did a big cook. I meal prepped because I hate cooking every single meal individually. Does anybody get tired of that? I'm just like, I just cooked this morning, like 3 hours ago. So I get frustrated. So I did a big cook, but typically nothing. I wake up, I put on, like, for example, the new Andre 3000 record. Anybody like that new record? You got the Andre 3000 flute record? It's incroyable. Please put it on. It's like vibey and moody, and it's like sound healing-ish. Just please do. Anyway, so I put on something like edifying or, that caresses my soul. And vocally what I do, not much. I just make sure I'm hydrated. And then spiritually, I just try to be as relaxed as possible and remind myself that I'm going to a party with my friends.
Nice. That's great. That's great. What is your favorite sort of musical setting to sing in? And you don't have to pick one. Or talk about one.
You know what? There's one. Okay. So, think about SF Jazz. Okay, raise your hand if you like the Joe Henderson Lab better than the minor. Joe Henderson? Okay, minor? Okay, so this is counterintuitive, right? Joe Henderson Lab seats 60. Minor Lab seats 400. Now, weirdly, minor feels way more intimate to me than the Joe Henderson Lab. The smaller room feels less intimate. Why? Because the level at which everything is just feels like I'm lording over. But minor, I can see a sea of faces. It feels like I can see all my friends. And that for me is, if I can see everybody's faces, and then I can grab you. I need to, so I can't really say like I prefer smaller places or whatever. It's like the feeling. I don't like a lot of glass and chrome. I like warm rooms with warm acoustics, and where I can just like really get all up in your face and tell you to dance or clap or whatever.
That's cool. What was the first song that you sang in public, either professionally or non-professionally?
First song I sang. And you prepped me for this question, and I still didn't prepare myself. Okay,
I can tell you the first song I sang.
what did you sing? Yeah, give me some time. Yeah.
So when I was a kid, it'll be a short story, maybe a long story. When I was a kid, my father's side of the family is Bengali, my mom's side is Filipino. And growing up in Southern California, we were really involved in the Bengali community. And every October, there would be a big festival for Goddess Durga, and there would be a 3-day weekend thing, and they would always have, like, the kids would do a little youth program, and then some of the parents would do like a little thing. It was a grassroots organization, and it was a way for these immigrant families to stay connected with their Bengali culture back in West Bengal or in Bangladesh. And when I was a kid, apparently I was singing all the time. And of course, my parents were like, oh, put her up on the stage, she's gonna sing a song. I was either 2 or 3, and I sat, and there's all these Bengali instruments, there's tabla, there's harmonium, and they put me in front of the microphone, and everyone's like, oh yes, sing something. And I started singing, so many nights, I'm dating myself, I sit by my window. Do you know this song?
Yeah.
Waiting for someone. So yeah, you light up my life. That was the song I sang. And I sang like a verse or whatever, and everyone's like, oh, that's so great. And then I just started crying. And then they took me off the stage. That was my first public performance.
Let me think of one that I crashed and burned.
Okay, so this is not the first, but
That's
it's
okay.
like one of the
That's
first. This is, so when I was in college, I got pulled into like a disco band.
Oh, nice.
And I was practicing the repertoire. And my sister pokes her head from around the corner and she said, girl, you sound terrible. And you want to know why? It's because I was using a classical vocal technique for a disco song. What you think, what you think, what you feel, what you know to be real. Feel your love for me, right? So I don't know, and it's interesting because I was like, how did I get? Because I can't. It's really hard for me to have that embouchure because now I'm like my brain clicks into the style. So now, what you think, what you feel now, what you know to be real, right? So it's just like you. Did you ever have that problem? Trying to sing funky stuff? Classical lady?
I think I just didn't put myself in that situation. I was like,
Smart
"Oh,
woman. Okay.
Yes. So we have a little bit of time. Does anybody have any pressing questions they want to ask Tiffany? Oh, we've got a question over here.
I heard that you are directing or leading a choir up in the North Bay.
I
Can you talk
am.
about that?
Yes.
Who's in it and how it formed?
So Jessica Felix, the founder of Healdsburg Jazz, got together with Marcus Shelby, who at the time was the musical director of, he was doing some collaborations with the Healdsburg Jazz Festival. And she approached, or they both got together and said it would be nice to have this community choir. And so I got kind of pulled in as like an assistant director for now, gosh, it had been maybe I want to say 7 years. And I was just kind of basically being mentored. You know how you get mentored with unbeknownst to you? So, and then one day he was like, "You're taking over the choir." And I was like, "Ugh," because he had been led it so beautifully. And then on top of that, he had said, "And you're going to write all the arrangements, or you're going to take it." So that was terrifying because me and harmony, you know, sometimes we're cool, sometimes we're not. There we go. But so now I've been doing that since 2020. Last 3 years, I've been the musical director of the Hillsburg Jazz. The Hillsburg Jazz Festival Choir. Thank you. The multitasking is not my strong suit. And I can also. Well, let me not blather on. Let me wait for more questions. Is there more info?
Is there another? Yes.
Questions?
When did you start writing such lovely songs? Did this just come, I mean, your first song, Orbit, was like incredible, loved it. So,
Wrote a lot of terrible songs, and then you just skim off the cream, right? That's all. Like, you should hear some of the other ones. But I think a lot of it is just trusting yourself to, again, the whole failure thing. Fail. Ooh, that was nice. How do I recreate that? Analyzing your processes. Was I in a vibe? Did I eat oranges in the morning? You know, developing your own personal superstitions around your practice.
Any other? We have time for one more question. Any questions? Okay, well, in the back, one last question there.
Let's get the last two. The last
Sure.
question.
I was so impressed with the musical theater at Loxo, where you both attended, and I thought there were almost professional type shows. Did either of you go into that?
Go ahead.
I was in an opera penned by Marcus Shelby called Harriet's Spirit. Unfortunately, my acting is going to take a few thousand years to develop. How about you,
At
Sharmila?
Loxa? You're asking at Loxa?
Yeah.
Oh, at Loxa.
While you were attending, did you do any of that theatrical stuff?
I did
My
not.
question.
I was at Loxa before they started the musical theater program, so that's how old I am.
I was at odds with the musical theater kids because I thought that everything was overly dramatic in the musical theater department. Everything was just like, The other thing, and I'm sorry, I'm not gonna. So here's what I love to point out to people who think about that, especially in contrast with like Black musical art forms. So musical theater is really like based in European classical delivery, right? And a lot of it is like, it's about, you can actually see the artifice, and there's not maybe a lot of improvisation. Now, Black musical art forms like jazz, the blues, soul, all of that stuff, it's going to be more conversant. And the whole idea is tearing down artifice. So you're not supposed to look choreographed. And it's actually getting out of that into a state of flow and just like a conversation here, a conversation with bass player. So that's why I use that nomenclature. I want to talk to Josh on the bass, right? Instead of like, let's perform. I don't even like, it's a dirty word to me, perform. I don't perform, I talk to my friends.
Yeah. Nice.
I'm sorry, what?
Last question, yeah.
What are you doing with your legal training?
I'm just walking around town threatening to sue people. So I am using it in the businesses that I am in, or the enterprises that I'm involved in. Here's a quick little resume blast. So I am artistic director of the Albany Juneteenth Festival. So I've been, working on that in that, not in completely that capacity, but it informs the way I operate there. I'm also have launched a music series called the Diaspora Sessions with my business partner who is a Cal MBA. So we have a JD and an MBA. We're getting it and we're doing all the stuff and we feel all really smart. And then the other thing that's happening is that I'm using it for is the new venue that I'm launching in Oakland called Wildflower. So that's going to be opening in February. So it's good. It informs everything. I read my own contracts, and you know, I threaten people with litigation.
Well, we have one more little treat for you this evening to end out the night. If we can grab Matt and Josh back there.